What's up, everyone? Ben with the BTC Sessions here, and this is your daily session.
Hodl the Bitcoin.
Before we dive in, just a couple quick things here. I do want to remind you to check out my website, btcsessions.ca. This is where you can reach out to me personally and book your own BTC session. We can chat Bitcoin, wallets, proper security, do a hardware wallet setup, whatever you like. All you need to do is scroll to the very bottom, and there's a contact form for you there. And secondly, big shout out to the sponsor of the show, Ledn.io. This is where you can use your Bitcoin as collateral to secure a Canadian dollar or US dollar loan. They've got a slider on the website where you can check out for a particular dollar amount how much you would need to deposit. And the application takes a couple minutes, no credit check involved. And if you're successful, you are typically fully funded in your bank account within 24 hours. So if you're looking to get a hold of dollars and you don't want to sell your Bitcoin to do so, this may be for you. And with that, let's dive into the news. So not too much in the ways of price action. We're sitting around 7,900. We did pop up over 8,000 a little bit yesterday, but not too much crazy going on here. A few percentage points across most of the coins. Now, if we look at SV here, we're going to get into this in a moment, what's going on there. But yeah, we'll touch on that momentarily. So let's dive into a little bit regarding the Bitcoin price and kind of where we're at and where we could be headed. So right now, Bitcoin has been having trouble breaking those highs of around 8350 that we were at earlier, around the 14th or so. So about a week ago, we were hitting up around these 8300 highs. Then we had kind of a blip up to that area. So we had a bit of a double top, and then we kind of dropped off. We had that big drop off where it dropped $1,700 in like 30 minutes, and now it's kind of popped back up. So we're in this kind of high, kind of nearly $8,000 range, but we're also inside of this channel. So we've been kind of making lower highs and lower lows for the last couple of days here. And so we may experience a bounce down to the bottom of this channel, but it's kind of tough to say. If we break out of this channel to the upside, then we are going to have to retest again that 8,300, 8,350 kind of resistance that we had before. Now there's this kind of ascending support that we've had, and we've tapped off it multiple times. So if we break below this, then the short term could be kind of bearish. Now, as far as levels go, I mean, we've been, like I said, we kind of just barely popped up over 8,000 the other day briefly, but we're going to need to see a lot more buying to pass that. So yeah, who knows if we do drop to kind of the bottom of this downward channel. That's looking like it's kind of like the 7,300 range-ish in there. So the low 7,000s we could see again. But yeah, it's going to take a significant number of buyers to get us up past this resistance that we've been seeing. So it's anybody's guess if we're going to do that. And let's move on to Jimmy Song. Recently put out an article talking about why diversification in the case of cryptocurrency is a bad idea. And he just laid out a couple simple main points for his reasoning. Now, when it comes to cryptocurrencies in general, whether it be Bitcoin or anything else, it's difficult to vet it based on a white paper or vet it based on the actions of the currency itself or the actions of what it's doing, but rather you should be vetting it through the underlying code. So he talks about a few things here. He said that the technical reality is usually only understood by a few, and everyone else trusts that the creators put into the white paper reflects the reality. There is nothing to really enforce that story and really conform, and instead the information about the coin comes from a small number of people that created the coin. This especially in reference to altcoins, because not a lot of people have the technical knowledge to go through the code base and actually understand what's going on there, and very few do in the cases of most altcoins. So it is very much a gamble. You're just kind of going on the words of what the creators are saying it was and what this white paper is, which could totally not reflect the reality. He said most coins are not vetted beyond the marketing story making sense, and sometimes not even that. And the result is a giant inverted trust pyramid with the founder at the bottom. Now, when comparing this to Bitcoin, he said that essentially with altcoins right now and tokens and things like that, well, there's a huge incentive to kind of overpromise and underdeliver. Whereas when Bitcoin was created, this was not the case, because there was essentially no market for it in the first place. And what ended up happening was an underpromise and overdeliver. The white paper was put out, the code was created and started running, and for a while it was nothing. Nobody cared, and then it started to spark interest, and people realized the value in it, and thus we've seen this kind of growth in it. Whereas with altcoins, there's kind of that inverse psychology where, hey, if I can convince people that I can do all of these things and we can achieve this greatness and onboard people and scale and do all of these other wonderful things, then we can have money flow into the system and support it. So the incentives are highly skewed when it comes to new coins coming onto the market now. He said, diversifying from Bitcoin to other so-called cryptocurrencies is like saying you should diversify from US dollars to the Bolivar and Zimbabwean dollar. It's a really bad idea. So he's basically saying that, more or less, there has not been the amount of vetting and hardening that you've seen on Bitcoin when it comes to the underlying code base on any other coin. The scrutiny that Bitcoin has been under, especially given how much it's grown over the past decade, it just cannot be rivaled. Now, I think it's a fair point. Do I think it's like a silver bullet to say why you shouldn't necessarily invest in anything else? I don't think so, because there are so many different reasons that you would have to have them compiled in a single place to really start to grasp the scope of how far ahead Bitcoin is in the goal of having a new world asset class. Yeah, interesting. I encourage you to take a look. I'll have links for that down below. And let's dive into that SV price hike that we just saw. Yeah, here we go. Okay, so self-proclaimed Satoshi, Craig Wright files U.S. copyright registrations for the Bitcoin white paper. So this is a masterclass in how to make nothing news into, on its face, something news, and pump the price of your coin. So essentially what Craig Wright did is he filed a copyright to say that he wrote the Bitcoin white paper and owns the code of BTC, of Bitcoin. The thing is, though, as written here from Jerry Brito from CoinDesk, I believe, or Coin Center. He said, registering a copyright is just filing a form. The Copyright Office does not investigate the validity of the claim, they just register it. Unfortunately, there is no official way to challenge a registration. If there are competing claims, the office will just register all of them. Someone could today also register themselves as the author of the white paper, thus inviting a suit from Wright and letting the court decide on the validity of the claim. I volunteer Peter McCormick. So essentially what he's saying here is this copyright claim, or rather this copyright registration that Craig Wright has filed, essentially means nothing. He took in a form and said, I wrote this, and filed it, and the office looked at it and said, sure, and filed it. And that's it. There was no vetting. There was no like, oh, I have proof that I wrote this. It was no, here's a form that says I wrote this. Can you file this? And they said, sure. If anybody, if I go into the same office tomorrow with a form that said I wrote the Bitcoin white paper and filed it, it would also be filed and registered. If any of you go into a U.S. copyright, if you go into a registration office and you file a U.S. copyright for the Bitcoin white paper, all of them will be registered. I'm pretty sure that the registration office is going to have an influx of registrations for people who have written the Bitcoin white paper. And then Craig Wright and his team are going to have to go and try and file suit and prove every single one of, not only that the people did not write it, but that he did indeed write it. So I imagine that's what's going to happen, is obviously when people see like the reaction of anything Craig Wright does by people in the Bitcoin ecosystem, he like instantly mobilizes thousands of people to do the inverse of what he's just done. And I'm not going to be surprised if we in the next day, week, month see tons of filings for copyright over the Bitcoin white paper. It's hilarious. Now, because of this, we saw that the Bitcoin SV price has risen. In fact, at one point it doubled. But what does that really mean? Well, let's take a zoomed out view. There you go. That is a picture of the Bitcoin SV price doubling in terms of Bitcoin. So as you can see, sure, if you were buying down here, you doubled your sats. But at the same time, like, it's been on a long, steady decline, and it's had blips like this before. So really, this is a big nothing burger of news with a nothing burger of a price hike. And I guarantee that anybody outside of SV that weren't already buying in at these higher prices, nobody was really buying SV down here. This is like a FOMO spike of people that already held it, or people that misunderstood the news and think that he's Satoshi, that are now finding out that, in fact, no, this means nothing. So, yeah, total nothing burger, so stupid, and makes for good news. It's funny because, yeah, this number here, this percentage, even when I started recording, was up at like 75%, and now it's down to 66%. So I bet if I refresh it, let's see here. Yep, there we go, down to 59%, down back below $100. At one point it was, I just want to see what it did in dollars actually. Oh, there we go. Okay, we got to zoom in to really appreciate where we're at. Oh yeah, there's the spike. So it did go up to 139 US dollars and 0.01, so 1.7% of a Bitcoin, and now it's since dropped down to, it's below 100, it's 98, and it is 0.012, so 1.2% of a Bitcoin. So yeah, the market is realizing that this is bullshit, so fun. Well, hopefully he sold some while it spiked like that. Anyways, one last thing here, and that is this article talking about how the worsening U.S.-China trade war is behind the Bitcoin price rise. And this is claimed by Barry Silbert, who's the CEO of Digital Currency Group. Now, if you remember from last week, we were talking, last week, 2 weeks ago, can't remember. Anyways, we were talking about their new commercial that had the hashtag drop gold, where they're saying that gold is an old asset class and you should jump into the new millennium with Bitcoin and other digital assets. So yeah, Barry Silbert, he basically said, if you look at the past 5 years, when Brexit happened, Bitcoin went up. When Grexit happened, Bitcoin went up. And he's basically saying that these macroeconomic things that are happening around the world, people flee traditional assets and head into something that is uncorrelated like Bitcoin, which, I mean, it could be the case. I don't know if this is really behind. I think this is just Bitcoin being Bitcoin. People always like to look at price hikes and point to a specific thing and see, that's why, because it fits the narrative that sounds nice. But I don't know. I don't necessarily believe that. I think in the long run, yes, people realize that this asset class is separate from other things, and it is inherently scarce and built on the fundamentals of gold. But I don't necessarily think that these macroeconomic things are directly causing it. I don't think somebody looks at the trade war and goes, ooh, better buy Bitcoin. Although that was probably not a bad idea in the first place anyways. But yeah, I don't think there's a direct correlation between those two things. It's just fun to point to. And with that, guys, I'm going to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to hit up my website, and do hit up Ledn.io if you're looking into a Bitcoin-backed loan. If you're new here, hit subscribe, hit like, smash that bell notification icon, because I'm always in the chat when this airs, chatting everyone up for the first time, so make sure you don't miss it. And if you really liked what you saw, you can drop me a Bitcoin tip via the Lightning Network at my tippin.me page. If you don't know how, I made a tutorial video, and I'll be sure to link that as well. And with that, I am out. Thank you guys. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you tomorrow for your daily session.